Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live. As usual, wait a moment or so here just to get a few people on with us and start our day on the right foot. And good morning to Nick from our staff, and Michael and Rosalinda, Rosa, John, and Donna. Good to have you on this morning. And Mary, Janice, good morning. Do I say this often enough? We appreciate you. Madeleine, how are you? From Temiskaming. Micheline, bonjour. Jeannette, bonjour. And Dorothy, nice to have you on with us this morning, Dorothy. Thank you for coming. We love you. Bonnie, good morning. Claudette, good to have you on with us this morning. Okay. Lynn from Nova Scotia. We love Nova Scotia. Joy, good morning. Helena, good morning to you. Thanks so much, guys. You guys are wonderful. We love you. And Mila from Tirana. And Judy from Newfoundland. Zien, bonjour. Kevin from Oshawa. Guys, all over North America and really goes around the world. Julie, Carol from BC, 5:30 in the morning. Marlene, thanks for those who are watching. Of course, I'm saying hello to a lot of people that watch this after, of course. We don't see your names here, but I know you're on there, thousands and thousands every day, and we appreciate it. Hey, Doc from Tennessee, Dr. McEwen, we love her. A good friend to the Martin Clinic. Natalie, Lois from Elliott Lake, beautiful Elliott Lake. And Marilyn from Edmonton, bright and early. Linda and Adeline. Okay, let's get going. We got a big crowd on. Donna. And when you get a chance, guys, share this. Okay, share this. Today we're going to talk about cancer, just because something came out that I flagged the other day, and I promised myself not to get too uptight when I read it. Good morning, Donna and Star. Yolande, good morning to you. Nice to have you on this morning. Okay. Here's the statistic, guys. Let me read it to you. And we're just going to do a little bit of thinking this morning. And I want you to think along with me as we go through this. Do you know that 1 out of 2 people, so 50% of the population, will get the diagnosis of cancer in their lifetime? 50%. 1 out of 2. And this was a headline. And 40 to 50 years ago, when I, it's almost not 50 years yet, but I'm getting there in terms of graduating. 1974. Whoosh! Wow. And do you know what the statistics on cancer were in the 1970s? 1 out of 20. 1 out of 20. 1 out of 2 today. Are we winning the war on cancer? Absolutely not. And 100 years ago, listen to this stat, 100 years ago, so double the amount of time, 1 out of 100 people got cancer. Okay, and, we got to allow that 100 years ago, they couldn't probably detect cancer like they can today. But there's no doubt, I don't think anybody in medicine would disagree that we today have a true pandemic on our hands, and that is the pandemic of cancer. And what's changed? I mean, I'm a simple guy, guys, so here's me, okay? If something wasn't there, or at least not much of it, 100 years ago, why do we see so much more today? Why is that? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And, none of this will be new. It will be repetition because we talk about these things on a daily basis. But when I see a headline like this, that 1 out of 2 people, I remember the dean of our college on the first day of school. This is in 69, 70. He said, turn to your right or left. 1 out of 2 are not going to make it. We're graduating half. 50% will pass. And I remember in my head saying, I remember it like it was yesterday. The dean talking to the first year students. And I remember saying in my head, I ain't flunking. It ain't going to be, one of those 2 ain't going to be me, okay? And I remember that like it was yesterday. It was clear to me. And I resolved in my heart at that time at 18 years old? I said, not going to be me. Not going to be me. I'm going to graduate. And I was like a bulldog. I remember putting that in my head. Anyway, so here we are today with 1 out of 2 people getting cancer. And it frustrates me to no end, guys, to no end. Because, I often say this, we're looking for love in all the wrong places, okay? The emphasis today in medicine when it comes to cancer, the emphasis is in detection, not prevention. Detection, not prevention. So in medicine's mind, just generally, okay, medicine's mind is you don't have cancer till they can detect it. You don't have cancer till they can detect it. So it's detection, not prevention. And to me, that is the biggest mistake you can make when it comes to cancer. It's detection, not prevention. Really, if you want to talk about the virus, it's testing for detection rather than preventing, right? It's sort of the motto of medicine. And God bless them. You have things like PET scans today and other detectors and, colonoscopies and whatever. Am I against that stuff? No, I'm not against detecting cancer. But cancer, you listen to me right now. You who are listening to me, even if I didn't mention your name at the top of the program, you're fighting cancer right now. There are cancer cells in your body as we speak. Cancer is slow moving till it isn't. Okay? Cancers are never aggressive to start. Now, sometimes when you rely on detection, then they detect something, and let's say it's accelerated, it's into 4th stage already, and then the doctor said, well, you have a very aggressive cancer. But it didn't start that way. It didn't start that way. So we're not winning the war, and we ought to change our methods. In my opinion, we ought to change our methods. And this is why we have this program, for example. This is why the Doctors In podcast. Why do I do it? I want to share with you what you can do, how you can take care of yourself, how you understand your body. You don't have to be a medical doctor. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't. Know some fundamentals. But if you understand the theory of cancer, it goes a long way, because if you understand, if you look at the cancer societies and how they raise not millions of dollars a year, billions of dollars a year from breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, skin cancer, you name the cancer, and they're all into raising money, they do a little bit of research, but it's detection and not prevention. Detection and not prevention. And one of the things, again, if we come back to the last couple of years, year and a half, it bothered me because now detection was being put off because they were so focused in. I've never seen a world that got so focused in on a virus and forgot everything else in medicine. And Dr. McEwen, who is on this morning, would agree with this. Man, oh man, they just forgot about mental health completely. Oh, well, I guess we'll deal with that after, won't we? Anyway, don't let me go down rabbit trails today. Keep me focused, okay? No, but, okay, so if you understand the overarching principle in cancer, the way medicine handles it, it helps, because everything we do is having to do with detection and then treatment, and very little, well, none prevention. Like, to me, there's no prevention. It's early detection. And again, I'm not against detecting it. I'm not. But we gotta get ahead of this thing. If we're going to change those stats, 1 out of 2, we got to get ahead of it. So let's look at some of the causes, and these would be very familiar to most of you, but let's go over and review. I ask myself these questions all the time, and I'm hopeful it's, ask questions. Whenever I see a stat like this, I ask myself questions. Why is that? When I had patients in my office, they spent 20 to 30 minutes outside in my waiting room answering questions. And that might have bothered them in a lot of ways. Jeepers creepers, why is he asking so many questions? Because I want history. History. Now, I don't want you to live in the rear view mirror. Don't live your life in the rear view mirror, okay? But it's not a bad idea to glance in the rear view mirror and have a look and see your history. So I'm a question guy. I ask myself this question. Why is it that we see so many today childhood cancers? When I was a kid, I'm not kidding you. Okay? I don't remember anyone, any kid, getting cancer when I was a kid. Now, did I, we don't have the media like we have today and this kind of thing, But, guys, this is a new phenomenon. And don't take my word for it. These statistics. In the 1970s, and believe me, I was not a little kid in the 1970s. I was a little kid in the 1950s. But in the 1970s, it was 1 out of 20. And that was shocking. It was way too much. Because it had gone from 1 out of 100. Why? Why was there no childhood cancer just about in the 1950s? Because they couldn't detect them? Nah, kids weren't dying. Before the 1950s, let me just tell you if kids died, they got an infection, not cancer. Before the days of antibiotics, kids died of the flu, of a bad bug, right? Now, modern medicine's made some wonderful strides. I give them high fives for that. But we have a phenomenon. We have something going on in society today where cancer is out of control and children's cancer is out of control. That ought to bother the life out of us. That children get cancer. Why is it so prevalent today? Well, it's the same reason. Think about it. In my opinion, it's the same reason that kids today are autistic when they weren't before. Kids today have so many cognitive issues. They're born. It happens in the placenta. Why is that? I'm just going to tell you one of the reasons. The wonderful effects of something that saved lives has been the curse of the 21st century. What is it? Antibiotics. The double-edged sword. Because one thing we know about antibiotics, they're wonderful. They save your life. But boy, do they ever destroy your microbiome. And the more we study the microbiome, the more we know that all diseases start in the gut. Hippocrates was right. And you have these children, which are canaries in the coal mine. Fragile. For whatever reason, that it hits them and not someone else. We have to look at the microbiome. Numero uno, the microbiome, the bacteria, the invisible war that goes on within the body, and it starts in children in the placenta. Every physician on this planet should be telling their pregnant ladies to take probiotics. 100% for sure. Because we have a scourge in our society today, and that is the microbiome, that disruption between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. And I believe it is at the root cause of children's cancer. I think it's at the root cause of all cancers. It's the root. Now, There's other things. But you have to start in the gut. And when, location, 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 right? Real estate. Okay? Real estate, right? It's important, isn't it? You want to buy a house? You're going to pay, today, you pay a fortune, right? For a house today in most markets. True or false? Yes, it's true. The prices of housing have gone crazy in most markets. But you pay more for location. I was looking at a house online in Vancouver. I'm telling you, that house in Sudbury would be 200 grand. It was, 9 million in Vancouver? And I'm not kidding you. Location, location, location. But in cancer, it's location, location, location. You have to look at the gut. You have to look at the gut. I try and teach physicians. Please. I know you're into genetics and I know you're into early detection, but can I please grab your attention? Ladies and gentlemen, can I get your attention? Look to the gut. There's a disruption there. One of the major causes is antibiotic. There's other causes, chemicals. Chemicals. We've talked over and over again about the chemicals, the chemical warfare. We're in a chemical warfare, guys. We're in a chemical warfare. It's all through our environment. You can't get away from it. But the problem is that they disrupt the microbiome. Food. Food. What does food do? Well, there's two bad groups. One is called sugar, and sugar, the case has been made thousands of times and still people don't get it. The population gets it better than medicine gets it because they just can't bring themselves generally to have any clue about food. Food and cancer. They're just not trained to think about food. And I try and emphasize, listen, doc, don't send a patient home that's got cancer and tell them to drink Ensure or Boost. Don't give them donuts. Don't tell them they need some carbs or sugars. They don't need any of that. For heaven's sakes, would you be reminded of how the PET scan works? I was telling my neighbor the other day, didn't know that. I said, well, do you know how he's going for a PET scan? I said, did you know they're going to give you a cup of radioactive glucose? He said, no, I didn't know that. I said, yeah, they're going to give you a cup of sugar. He said, why? Because I said, if you got cancer, you're going to light up like a Christmas tree. Because sugar goes right to the cancer. Why? Because cancer needs sugar to operate. It's their preferred. A cancer cell is like a teenager, out of control, that wants sugar. Give me a treat, because that's what they live on. But, my word, there's no, if you're in medical school, you would think, okay, let's talk about this. Nope. No talk. We've detected it. Now we're going to slash and burn. Slash and burn, slash and burn. Slash and burn, slash and burn. True or false? It's true. You know, you get sent home by even a dietitian and you're told to eat, well, you better have, get some fiber in your diet. Food, sugar. You know another one? And think of what sugar does too. You got a double whammo. You got a cancer cell that survives on sugar. It survives on it. 2, you got seed oils, inflammatory foods, crappy carbs, the middle aisles of your grocery store. They promote inflammation. And I brought this to you before, and I actually wrote about it in the book, The Reset, is why do we see so much lung cancer today? Now, if you read the book, if you read The Reset, you should remember this. Why is there so much lung cancer today? Still the number one killer in our society in terms of cancer numbers. There's still the number one killer is lung cancer. And yet, smoking has gone way down comparatively. Why do we see so much lung cancer? You know what cigarette smoke used to do? One of its byproducts was aldehydes. Okay? Now follow through with me for a second. And aldehydes are very, very destructive and cancer producing in the lungs. Aldehydes. Smoking. Okay? And today there isn't a doctor in the universe. There isn't a doctor in the universe that would tell you let's smoke it up, guys, because that's good for your lungs. Come on. Right? I don't have to tell you that, but is there a doctor talking about aldehydes that are formed from omega-6s and these crappy oils? And when you have a 20-to-1 or 30-to-1 ratio of omega-6 over omega-3, you start a real process of aldehydes in your lungs. Cancer producing. It's still why lung cancer is the number one killer still today. And you get people, first question people ask, you got lung cancer? Oh, were you a smoker? No. Were you a bad eater? Well, maybe. I didn't know that was bad for me. Nobody told me that. So you have the microbiome. And then, of course, guys, when you have sugar, what are you feeding in there? When you have leaky gut, if you have leaky gut, one of the things that disrupts that barrier between your gut and your blood is fungus, yeast. Sugar feeds it. That's why there's such a huge connection between cancer and yeast. Some doctors think that all cancers are fungus. I'm not against that hypothesis. I'm a fungus doctor. I am. I'm telling you. Worse than bacteria. Worse than viruses. and often misdiagnosed is fungus, yeast, candida. Another thing that doctors are poorly trained in. They're poorly trained in leaky gut. And they just don't understand it. Because to them, okay, location is important, right? But if you don't have digestive symptoms, I mean, the only thing, and look, again, I don't want to be too hard on them, but generally when you look at cancer, if you don't have digestive symptoms, you can have leaky gut without digestive symptoms. I don't have any digestive symptoms. That doesn't mean you don't have leaky gut. If you got yeast that is snuck into your bloodstream, it becomes systemic. It can go everywhere. And I believe it's a foundational principle of cancer. It's candida, but it's leaky gut. And again, you go back to antibiotics. You go back to all these chemicals. You go back to non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And we've talked about this. Cancer and obesity. Metabolic syndrome. Right? Food. Two bad guys. Sugar and crappy oils. A lack of vitamin D. That's a big problem in our society today. The sun is the boogeyman. People have no immune system to fight cancer. Why? Their levels of vitamin D are low. If you have low levels of vitamin D, your Navy SEALs. You got good Navy SEALs? I was reading this morning, okay, in Chronicles, okay, in the Bible. I was reading about David, King David, okay? I always loved King David. But I didn't, I see, you sort of, you see it, and, I've been a Christian a long time, but as I read the scriptures again and again and again, I noticed something this morning that really spoke to me, okay? David had a lot of mighty men. I mean, he had Navy SEALs, he had his personal bodyguards around him, and you read the story of them, and holy moly, these guys were just crack troops. I mean, they were the toughest dudes you'd ever want to meet. No wonder David he won every stinking battle. He had these crack troops around him. These guys were amazing. But you know what, guys? Here's the point. Your body has crack troops. Your body has Navy SEALs. They're T cells. You have an immune system, guys, for viruses, bacteria, cancer cells. They know how to detect cancer cells, but they need vitamin D to operate. It's well established. One of the elephants in the room, there's two elephants in the room when it came to the virus. One of them is how low people's levels are of vitamin D. No wonder the virus became a pandemic. People are extremely low in vitamin D. Most people, I think it's 90% of the population. One of the biggest reasons is the sun is gonna give me cancer. And my generation and my parents And now even the young kids, oh, they buy it hook, line, and sinker. They don't realize there's a vitamin that you get in the sun. You need it. Viderma. Viderma. Don't you like that? I love Viderma. I think I'm writing a book about Viderma. I just like that name. But guys, why do we see, again, 50% of the people that get cancer? 50% of people will get cancer in a lifetime. 1 out of 2. Because nobody or very little talk about prevention. It's the overarching principle. So guys, there's your tip for the day. Prevention, not detection. And I'll leave you with this with cancer. I always use this. I remember doing this on a television show, a morning show in Orlando. 15 years ago at least. It was one of the books I wrote. I got interviewed down there and I brought a pen on the set. I wish I could find that video. Maybe I will try and find it. And I was doing an interview and we were talking about cancer and I said, you see the tip of this ballpoint pen? And I remember the young lady who was interviewing me. I mean, she was fixed on what I was saying. And I used the illustration. I said, you see the tip of this ballpoint pen? I said, for cancer to grow to that size, the tip of a ballpoint pen takes 5 years. You can't wait for detection, guys. You're not going to detect something the size of a tip of a ballpoint pen, for heaven's sakes. Think about that for a minute. How are you going to see that even in a colonoscopy? You're not going to see it at that size. You'll see it when it becomes a polyp. But this is I said, this is why that's in those days. I was talking about that. I said, we need to talk prevention, not detection. We talk enough about detection. Let's prevent cancer. Let's get our bodies turned in the fight against cancer. Okay. I'm stopping there because I could go on for 2 hours. And I'm sure there's things I didn't talk about. Okay. So tomorrow, question and answer Friday. So it's not too late. Send in your questions, okay? And we'll answer those tomorrow. Thank you again for joining the Martin Clinic private Facebook group. If you're not on there, make a comment. No, where are you going to do that? Don't make it here. How do you join? Get on our get to our website, martinclinic.com. If you don't get our emails, martinclinic.com. Sign up for our emails, okay? If you haven't got a copy of the book, The Reset, change your life, change your food, change your mind. For many, I'm out to change your mind. Okay? Good. Okay. Guys, we love you dearly. Talk to you soon.